But yeah, for now, I think this might work. I don't want to make too much movement because my network is working really well. Um, I'm going to go through the exciting news that was released. I think if you are an MMA fan, um, specifically a UFC fan, I mean, like you are going crazy. Especially for me, like I'm a super massive fan of Khamzat Chimaev, and I'm looking forward to this particular card. So basically, Dana White announced that the first, I think it's the first fight night card at UFC Saudi Arabia is going to be headlined by Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. That's massive news. Maybe I should wait for. I'm going to wait a little bit for a couple of people to come on before I proceed with this particular live stream. I try my best to make sure that my live streams are not like your average live streams, so that when you watch them a little bit later on, they're not like too spacey, in between, like there's nothing happening. So that's why I try to make sure that I keep the conversation going. So basically, Dana White announced that in Saudi Arabia, the fight night will be headlined by Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. I honestly cannot believe, I can't believe that this fight is actually happening. But one of the biggest and most important things to highlight is a lot of people were saying Hamza Chimaev is avoiding tough competition, top level competition. Who has he fought and all those type of things. And now these fights are starting to happen, and Hamza Chimaev is now building a really nice resume. If he manages to get past Robert Whittaker, Hamza Chimaev will have beaten Gilbert Burns in his prime. Like, we're not talking about the Gilbert Burns who showed up right now and who still looked decent, but Gilbert Burns in his prime. And keep in mind that Gilbert Burns at welterweight has only lost to Jack Della Maddalena, has only lost to Bilal Mohammed, Hamza Chimaev, and Kamaru Usman. Four incredible athletes in the UFC. So it's not a shame to lose to those type of people. So people were discrediting that, but I'm going to start with the bottom of the card. Basically, the fights that were announced, and then I'm going to go up and I'll give my predictions. Obviously, my opinion on the fight, and I'll give my early predictions because obviously the entire card has not been announced. So Sharamagomedov versus Iho Potieria. If you've been following my channel, you know I'm high on Sharamagomedov, and I've said this a lot of different on different occasions that I genuinely believe that Shara is significantly better. Where is Strickland gonna go? Apparently, they are planning on booking DDP versus Izzy in. I think Sean Strickland will most likely fight Costa, Polo Costa, and I think that's an exciting fight. I'm not sure if Polo Costa is going to be fighting at UFC 301, which is crazy because now, like, this fight card, this hi, man. This fight card looks significantly better than UFC 301, which is insane. So back to what I was saying. If you've been following my channel, you know I'm super high on Sharamagomedov. I've said it on numerous occasions. I think Sharamagomedov is probably the best striker um, in the UFC. All round, because I've been saying that. What do you call him? Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira are basically punches and leg kicks. Like, it's kickboxing in the technical sense, but it's not necessarily kickboxing because there's no dynamic strikes in what they do. Like, they just throw regular kicks and then they throw regular punches. If you've watched Shara Magomedov fight, that dude is incredibly technical. He's incredibly talented on the feet. I hope I hope he's been working on his takedown defense, because I think he has the ability to actually be one of the greatest fighters. Hi. I think he has the ability to become one of the greatest fighters in UFC history. He's exciting. Even if he goes to a decision, he's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. And obviously, they're trying to build him up. That's why they gave him Iho Potieria. I think the only thing missing from Sharamagomedov's arsenal is his takedown defense. But fortunately, he's good defensively on the ground. So I'm really excited about the future of this kid. The middleweight division is looking really nice. The welterweight and middleweight are starting to be like super exciting. For a long time they were not that interesting, in my opinion, but most recently they've been coming into, like, they've been really interesting prospects that are coming into these particular divisions, and I'm super excited. Bo Nickel, even though he's fighting cans, but he's a really interesting prospect. I used to underestimate Brandon Allen. He's looking super impressive and all those type of things. But my early prediction on this card, obviously, Sharamagomedov is going to win this particular fight. On to the next one, Johnny Walker versus Volkan Ozdemir. Early prediction, I think Johnny Walker is going to find a way to actually win this fight. I know he gets knocked out, and I predicted that Ankalaev is going to beat him. But I feel like Johnny Walker is will have the size advantage. I think he will have the youth advantage. I think he will have the speed advantage. I think he will have the cardio advantage. So it's not the most exciting. It's an exciting fight, but I don't think I have a lot to say about this particular fight. So on to my early prediction is that Johnny Walker is going to win this one. On to the next one, Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. Another one that I feel like, I think Kelvin Gastelum was being overhyped. You look like Leon Edwards. Okay, I'll take that as a compliment. Kelvin Gastelum, I think he got a lot of hype from how he fought Israel Adesanya. And obviously, Izzy was a really credentialed, and still is a really credentialed kickboxer, so that gave him some level of clout. And Kelvin Gastelum is good, but I don't know how good he is, because even in his previous fight, I actually did predict that Sean Brady would beat him, because people were overestimating his abilities. The fact that he struggled against Chris Curtis says a lot about, for me. But in this particular fight, I think Daniel Rodriguez is a little bit worse off in his career than where Kelvin Gastelum is. I think Kelvin Gastelum has youth on his side. I think he has the ability to actually find a way to win this fight. So I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum on this one. These are early predictions. I haven't researched anything. I normally release my predictions about a week before, and then my live predictions, obviously, I do them a day before. I think I might do my live predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night today. I'm still deciding. I'll see, but let me proceed with this. Is this the co-main event? Yes, the co-main event is going to be Sergei Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. I'm sorry. I think another fight that I predicted, in the previous fight, I predicted that Tom Aspinall would actually beat Sergei Pavlovich. But in my opinion, that doesn't necessarily mean that Sergei Pavlovich is not a good fighter. I think he's an incredibly talented fighter. I just thought Tom Aspinall was better. In this particular fight, I would give the edge to Sergei Pavlovich. I think he has the power, I think he has the speed, and I think he has some level of grappling. Most underrated fight in UFC, in your opinion. I don't understand, most underrated fighter or fight. I don't understand. Can you please explain that question? I'll come back to it. So in this particular fight, I think Sergei Pavlovich is going to win this fight. I don't know if Alexander Volkov knows how to use his reach. He gets touched. He panics, in my opinion, a lot against people who can knock him out. and which has normally happened. Look at how he fought the Tai Tuivasa. I think the main reason why he won was because he was able to take him to the ground and actually end up submitting him. And obviously, that's the smart thing to do, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that with Sergei. I think Sergei will be able to actually get the knockout. On to the main event. I'm super excited. If you've been following me, you know I'm a super fan of Khamzat Chimaev. Even though I know a lot of people hate on the dude, but I'm really, really excited about the future of this dude. I think he's one of the most talented people in the UFC. Before I even forget this particular point, people like to say he was losing the last two rounds of his fight with Kamaru Usman. I think an argument can be made for the final round. I think the second round was close. But nonetheless, people are using the short notice as a reference to say, okay, he couldn't even finish Kamaru Usman on short notice. I just spoke about Tom Aspinall, who came in on short notice and finished one of the biggest, or rather one of the most scariest fighters in the heavyweight division right now, in Sergei Pavlovich. Magdalena Robai came in on short notice and beat Uros Medic on short notice and dominated. I can name a variety of other fighters. So for me, short notice, obviously it counts as to with regards to like preparation of someone, but nonetheless, I feel like people are being a little bit unfair on the guy. And also, it comes down to strategy. For me personally, I don't have a problem with him guessing out, especially if he knows that the fight is 3 rounds. As long as he knows he can survive the 3 rounds, then I don't have a problem with him going all out in the first round because he knows he can get the finish. Historically, he's been able to do that. So why not try to actually get the finish? Now, coming to this particular fight. If we look at, there's never been a fighter that Khamzat Chimaev has not been able to take down, right? Like, I don't think there's ever been that type of a fighter. Even Kamaru Usman, right? The only reason he didn't grapple, obviously, Gilbert Burns was because Gilbert Burns is a world champion, so like on the ground, like I think in jiu-jitsu or something like that. So obviously, why would you risk that as opposed to just standing? Number one, I don't think Robert, especially looking at what Dricus du Plessis was able to do to him, I think Khamzat Chimaev will be able to take Robert Whittaker down. And if he was able to do what he did to Kamaru Usman, then most definitely he's going to be able to do a lot worse to Robert Whittaker because Robert Whittaker is not on Kamaru Usman's level of grappling. I think one thing that Kamaru Usman might have showed a lot of people is if someone is on your back, like Khamzat Chimaev was, and that's how his head got injured. Kamaru Usman slammed Khamzat Chimaev face first, just to make sure that he doesn't, choke him out in the first round, and that's how. Obviously, that affected his ability to actually fight properly in the later rounds, and obviously his cardio. And I think he will come into the fight knowing that it's going to be a 5-round fight, so he has to manage his cardio a little bit better in this particular fight. But nonetheless, I don't know if it gets past the first round because when you compare Robert Whittaker's grappling skills versus Kamaru Usman, they're not even on the same league, in my opinion. So, based on that, the only way Robert Whittaker survives is if he somehow finds a way to actually defend Khamzat Chimaev's takedowns, which is not a very easy thing to do. I haven't seen anyone who's been able to successfully do that at this particular point in time. So I don't know if Robert Whittaker will be able to do that. On the feet, the people forget that Khamzat Chimaev has a lot of knockout power, and we've seen what Dricus du Plessis was able to do to Robert Whittaker. Obviously, it's not easy to hit him, but if you can land a solid punch, Robert Whittaker will be in trouble, especially because he used to be a welterweight and he moved up, obviously. And I think at this particular point in time, Khamzat Chimaev will be the bigger fighter, will have a lot more power than he had at welterweight. So obviously my pick is going to be Khamzat Chimaev. I think it's going to be a first round finish. It's crazy that this particular fight, or rather fight card, is bigger and better than UFC 301, which is a pay-per-view. But obviously the Saudi Arabia is paying the UFC a lot of money, so obviously they're going to have to stack the card. Um, I'm still deciding whether or not to do my predictions because I haven't done enough research, live predictions, that is. So I'm still deciding as to whether to do that or not. But for now, I appreciate all of you. Love you. See you on the next one. Deuces.